Can Keldric Faulk be Auburn's first round NFL draft pick since Derek Brown in 2020? Let's discuss that on this live edition of the Uptempo podcast. Yes, sir. What is up, Auburn family? What's up, Uptempo gang? Dustin Smith riding solo tonight. I got Blake's got to work late. Figured, we'd get in here and talk a little NFL draft. 3 Auburn Tigers were selected in last weekend's NFL draft. You had Jarquez Hunter going to the Rams, Keandre Lambert-Smith going to the the LA Chargers on the offensive side of the ball. And it's one of those things where we're looking at it and we're saying Jarquez was the first one to go. Jarquez was the first one to go in the 4th round. And all you guys out there, you remember the time when Auburn had multiple guys getting drafted, 4, 5, 6 guys getting drafted. You think back to 2004 when Auburn had the entire backfield go in the first round, quarterback go in the first round. So it just hasn't been good. And like I mentioned in the intro there, no first-round pick for Auburn since Derek Brown came off the board to the Carolina Panthers in 2020. So it hasn't been all that for Auburn lately. He had Keandre, Jarquez, and then Jalen McLeod to the Jacksonville Jaguars in the 6th round. I was forgetting Jalen there. My apologies on that. So I want to come in here. We got a new commitment from the portal since last time we talked to you guys. DB from Tulane. And talk about what that means for the DB room. And then we'll talk about Keldric Faulk. Can he be the guy? The last guy for Auburn to go in the first round was Derek Brown in 2020. Will it be another defensive lineman? If it's going to be anybody, I think it's going to be Keldric. Are there some guys on this Auburn roster that could have a big year and thrust themselves up into, higher into the NFL draft boards? So let's talk about it, man. First, getting into this cornerback coming over from Tulane. I think this is a big thing for Auburn. Tulane defensive back Rayshon Pleasant transfers to Auburn. He is 6 feet flat, 185 pounds, 35 tackles, 3 pass breakups, 1 INT last year, and he has 2 years of eligibility remaining. Anytime you get a guy out of the transfer portal that has multiple years of eligibility remaining, it's always impressive to me. And this was important for Auburn because you saw the guys that left. J.C. Hart and everybody that left, really not everybody, but a big portion of everybody that left, Terrence Love, I know he was a safety, but it was a lot of DBs. You lost a lot of DBs in that room. And I just think that this is going to be the new thing in college football. We'll use J.C. Hart as an example. You recruit a guy out of high school, you give him a year, 2, maybe sometimes 3 to crack the rotation, to figure it out. Like we talked about last week, it takes the guy some time. Let's not look at a guy his freshman year and give up on him if he hasn't produced. But if you give a guy, like JC, a couple of years and he's got his opportunities to get in when people have got hurt and get on the field and he didn't really make the most of those opportunities, then he's probably going to get told to move elsewhere, or he's going to kind of see the writing on the wall. Tyler Scott, that's a different situation, right? Where a guy coming off an injury and he kind of got passed up. We were hearing good things about Tyler Scott when he first came into Auburn, and then he tears his knee up, and you feel like then other guys kind of jumped him in that room. That's no fault of his own, but it's a little bit to 2 different scenarios there. But what happens is these guys got to transfer out to go find reps. They got to get on the field, and now you've got holes to fill. And you can't blame a J.C. Hart or a Tyler Scott for looking at Kay and Lee, for looking at a Crawford, and then a Blake Woodby. Those kind of guys come in, and you're wondering, well, when am I going to get to play? Where's my playing time at? So those guys transfer out. Well, you still got to have depth in that room. Champ Anthony's still coming off that injury. We think he's going to be great. I can't wait to see what Champ Anthony is going to be this year. But that happened right in front of me. I was at the Arkansas game, and I was probably about 5 or 6 rows up, right in front of where that happened. That's a bad injury. So it's going to take him time to get back and feeling like, playing how he was playing, because, boy, Champ was really coming on strong, wasn't he? So it's depth. You're going to need depth in that room, obviously. And I think this is the route that you're going to start seeing, and you already are seeing a lot of these big programs, these Big Ten, these SEC programs take. When I have a guy like J.C. Hart or Tyler Scott that comes in, we recruited him out of high school, and we give him 2 or 3 years, and he doesn't see his path to getting onto the field, to getting reps, and it's time for him to move on. Well, now you have a spot to fill. Why not go get a guy from that group of 5 level that's played a lot of football, that's been productive at that level, and he wants to come up onto the roster and he wants to make a statement and he wants to throw his hat in the ring and say, hey, listen, I'm here too. Pay attention to me. I was overlooked in the recruiting process. I've been productive down here at a school like Tulane, and I think that I'm a dog, and I think I can get up here and run with the big boys in the SEC. And although we feel like our starters are pretty entrenched in Kay and Lee on the outside and Crawford on that other outside at corner, we're one injury away. And even without injury, you got to have guys to come in and give other guys a rest, right? And that's really the problem we've seen on the defensive line a lot for Auburn. But in the DB room too, the DB room over the past, even throughout the struggles of these 4 straight losing seasons, Auburn's had defensive backs. I think that's really the main thing to me in the draft is just like you had a wide receiver, a running back, and you had a defensive lineman. Auburn not having a DB go pro. It's been a while. And we got some NFL DBs, but they still got a couple of years until they are eligible to make that jump. Like Jordan Crawford's going to be in the 2026 NFL draft if he continues to play the way that he did his freshman year. Kay and Lee will be interesting to watch, and we'll talk about that in the second segment. But this is a big ad for Auburn for depth reasons. I think that he is going to get reps. I think he's going to be a part of the rotation. And it's important because you lost guys in that room, and you lost guys in that room because they got beat out or they just didn't see a path. And it's got to be daunting seeing a Jordan Crawford there, and you're like, damn, dude, you're going to be here for 2 more years. Well, that's the spot on the outside that's just locked up. So you go get a guy like Rayshawn, and I love getting these kind of guys that have been productive, and if at the lower level and coming in hungry. And if there's any room, if there's any coaching group that I trust, I'm going to trust Coach Crime, and I'm just going to trust whoever is in charge of Auburn defensive backs, because we've seen it change multiple times and it still be legit. Whether it was Zach Etheridge, Charles Kelly has moved on, right? And I know he was safeties last year, and Crime was DB and corners, and Rayshawn is more of a corner. But the point I'm making is coaching turnover in that secondary, it doesn't matter. Auburn has continued to have productive defensive backs on the field and has been pumping them into the NFL for a long time. So I'm going to trust Auburn at defensive back until Auburn gives me a reason to not trust them at defensive back. Devin is in here. We appreciate you, Devin. She says, War Eagle fam, excited to be talking football more and more. Seems so close, yet so far away. Yeah, unfortunately, Devin, it's too far away from my liking. We're coming up. College, the Auburn, the baseball team, they're doing great. But we are coming up on this dead period of sports where once baseball is over and it's getting to the end of the regular season for baseball, it's going to be a couple of really rough months, and we're just going to have to get through it together by talking out all these different scenarios and breaking down what Auburn can be in this upcoming season, which is going to be obviously a very pivotal season for Hugh Freeze. I think Auburn is one of the most interesting, most intriguing teams in the entire college football landscape this year, certainly in the SEC. All eyes on Auburn. What are you going to do? Everyone that does content media for other teams is DMing me, asking me, what's the number for Hugh? So it's going to be a fun year. But, adding this guy in Rayshawn Pleasant to the DB room, obviously, I think it helps Auburn for depth. I think it helps your guys like Kay and Lee and Jordan Crawford get a nice little breather when they have to. And like I said, I'm going to trust our coaching staff and their evaluations, especially in that secondary. Ann is in here. Ann's always repping and supporting, saying, War Damn Eagle fam. We appreciate you, Ann. Devin says, summer is the worst. About to start watching old games to get me through. I'm excited about the season. Yeah, absolutely, Devin. I always go back to like 04, 06, obviously 2010, 2017, right? Better times, 2013. So for sure, we're approaching old game territory without a doubt. You go back far enough, and you'll find them games where they play that real football, man. Hey, do me a favor, guys. We are in here early. I need to go ahead and get this done. I got some things to do this afternoon. So, we don't ever go live on Wednesdays, and definitely don't ever do it at 4:00 in the afternoon. So share this out on social media. Let everybody know that we're in here. You can help us out if you're interested in signing up for the memberships. I got to navigate everything solo tonight. So give me just a second here. Bang. $3.99 a month for the JV squad, $5.99 a month for the varsity squad. You see right there on the screen what those things entail. As soon as I get done with this pod here for you guys, I'm going to record some stuff about spring football, some intel and that kind of stuff, and we'll get that put out for you members. Appreciate you guys. Got a lot of stuff coming down the pipe. We really do. So thank you all that support and are signed up for those. You can gift those if you want to. Go over to thewarportshop.com. Get you some of this up-tempo merchandise. Get you a t-shirt, man. You look good. We'd appreciate it if you do that. It would help us out. SEC Media Day is coming up. Looks like Auburn's going to be possibly hosting a regional for baseball. If they get out of that and they get that top 8 seed, a super regional. So there's a lot of stuff that we got coming up that we want to cover, and you guys supporting us and helping us out like that. It's big time. But I want to talk about Keldric. I want to talk about Keldric Faulk. And a lot of you guys that have been with us for a long time, you already know. But if you don't, you can go on the shorts. You can go on our channel. You can go on the shorts. You're not even going to see this background. You're going to see the background of my old apartment that I used to live in. Keldric Faulk never played it down. I was firing off some pretty, well, at the time, were hot takes. But I believed in this guy from the moment that Hugh Freeze was able to flip him. It was massive for Hugh to come in that short month's time that he had to kind of repair, the class. And anytime a head coach gets fired, Auburn fires Brian Harston. The recruiting already wasn't great. Then it's really up in the air. You had a guy in Highland Holmes, a big 4-star edge rusher, D lineman that Auburn had to get, and he was committed to Florida State. And ultimately, Hugh was able to get in there and flip him. And I think that when it's all said and done, if Hugh was able to be successful at Auburn, he's going to be able to look back at that recruitment and say, this was a big one for me. This was a big one for me in getting my culture established. And that's where I want to start. Derek Brown, 2020. The last Auburn player selected in the first round of the NFL draft, right? Can Keldric Faulk break it? Can Keldric Faulk break that streak this year? There was a lot of talk about Shedeur Sanders and how he fell and why he fell. And a lot of it was not that anybody said he was a bad person, but it was a lot of just questions about maybe leadership and attitude and personality, right? This is not something you have to worry about with Keldric Faulk. Keldric Faulk is a leader, a captain, a role model, everything that you want in a football player. Off the field, he's that guy. You're not going to hear a bad story about Keldric Faulk, the human being. And I think a lot of that, and I've never met his mother, but I've heard nothing but great things about his mother. I think a lot of that comes from having a strong mother that just raised him right. And his little brother will be on Auburn's team this year, and that's going to be fun to watch those two. And Hugh, by the way, Hugh winning over Mom and getting Keldric was a big part of that recruitment. But leadership, being made of the right stuff, the work ethic, going to show up to practice on time. If he's got NIL events, he's going to show up on time. He's not the guy that's going to go into the On to Victory office or go into Hugh Freeze's office and say, you know what? I need more money because I had 1 sack my freshman year and I had 7 sacks my sophomore year. And if I don't get it, I'm out. Now, I'm not saying Keldric didn't go in there and negotiate the more money that he earned, because he would have been definitely in his, in the right of doing that. But what I am saying is it's not going to be a Nico situation or a Chad Baker situation. Like, he's not that guy. He's not going to try to hold Auburn hostage. It's not all about that. This is a guy that loves Auburn, that wants to be at Auburn, and is going to be a big part of this culture. He is a big part of this culture turning around. And I know we didn't see it on the field last year, but the stories that I heard about just the locker room and the meeting rooms and the team chemistry, it started to change. It had been the same old song for 3 or 4 years. It started to change last year. And again, you didn't see it on the field. That's more so kind of coaching incompetence, game management and that kind of stuff. But as far as the culture turning around, this becoming a close locker room and a close-knit group and doing things the right way, Keldric Faulk has been a massive part of that. A massive part of that. And me and Blake talk about that all the time, right? You can have leaders And that's all they do is they're leaders. And that's fine. You need those guys. You know, the Luke Deals of the world. You need them. But it hits different when you have a guy like Keldric Faulk, who was balling on the field and he's doing everything right off the field. So he leads in a multitude of ways. The young cats, because this Auburn defensive line, this class that we just pulled in from the 2025 high school rankings, those guys are dogs. They're elite. Those guys are the best of the best. That's probably the best position group that Auburn had in this past recruiting class. They got a guy like Keldric to look at every day. Not only does he do things the right way, but watch me produce on this third down as well. And then that young player can connect the dots and say, you know what? You know why Keldric made this big play on 3rd and 3 when Auburn had to have it? Now the crowd's going nuts chanting his name. Because he did everything right on Monday. He did everything right on Tuesday. He did everything right on Wednesday. And it leads to production on the field Saturday. So that's the first point I want to make about just not the year that Keldric Faulk is going to have, but also where NFL GMs are going to put him on their draft boards. Y'all know I'm a big Buccaneers fan. Bucs GM Jason Light, who has been one of the best drafters in the NFL, he went on the Pat McAfee show today and said, the first thing we do, this is what he said word for word, he said, we eliminate the assholes. Meaning, if you ain't got it in between the ears, you're not on the Buccaneers board. They're not going to draft you. Well, that's Keldric Faulk. He's going to be on the Bucs board. That's not a worry with this guy. He was a sophomore. He had played one season as a true freshman. Coming into his true sophomore year, Auburn feels confident enough taking him to SEC Media Days to stand at the podium, represent the university, and then do all the radio interviews and everything that goes into Media Days. And he crushed it. So that's where we're going to start, is he is that guy as far as intangibles, leadership qualities, all of that. He checks every box. Then there's the on the field. We know what he is. You see the stats right there on the screen. 45 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, and he had that forced fumble as well last year. It's the combination of strength and speed. And it was raw last year, or it was raw his freshman year, but he was just so damn good that you had to get him on the field. But there was flashes, and there was times where he disappeared, especially late in the season. And some of that is probably being a true freshman defensive lineman in the SEC. 18, 19 years old out here going up against 21, 22-year-old grown-ass men on the offensive line. It's tough. The Keldric Faulks and Malik Blocktons are a rare breed. Malik Blockton will be a high draft pick as well. But they're a rare breed. Getting a cat like that to come in as a freshman, a true freshman, and give you significant reps and be starting and being productive on the defensive line. Keldric was good his freshman year. And then to what we just spoke about as far as work ethic and leadership, you saw this massive jump in his sophomore year that we knew he was ready to make. But now he had a year of football under his belt. He worked his ass off in the offseason. And then you saw the big sophomore campaign that he had. And he's kind of really starting to show up on radar. People are starting to kind of notice, who's this number 15 guy over here? This dude's a problem. He's tough. Keldric Faulk's played through some injuries. And Keldric Faulk's played a lot of snaps. And that's one thing that really fires me up about Faulk this year is I believe that Auburn is deep at defensive line as it's been since that last year that Derek Brown had at Auburn. And make no mistake about it, Derek Brown was a specimen. He is he's unbelievable. He's probably if he's not the best defensive tackle in the National Football League right now, Derek Brown is definitely top 3. No one would argue that. So he's the dude. But there were some other really good college-level defensive linemen on that 2019 Auburn defensive line that allowed DB to get his breathers. We saw when Keldric Faulk was a freshman, man. It was the Iron Bowl at home. He got hurt, and they basically he just had to go back out there. There was no other option. Big dog, you got to play. And that was the feeling I had as a fan. I'm like, Keldric, you got to play. I hate it, but that's how thin we were. Like, nah, buddy, this is a close game versus Alabama. You just got to go. You just got to go grind it out. And he did. He's tough. Mentally tough, but physically tough. That speed, that athleticism, that strength. And now you're looking at a guy that's played 2 full seasons. So now it's all about just putting together the consistency. Not that he was inconsistent last year, but it's just you feel like now with 2 years of SEC football underneath him and playing, I mean, he's been starting since he was a freshman, that like this is the year, right? Like Keldric's got it figured out. If he was at 7 sacks last year, I'm not going to put a number on it yet, but I am without hesitation am saying that he is clearing 15 tackles for loss and he's clearing the double digits in sacks. And I don't even think that's like a stretch. That's not a hot take. And I mean, come on. And the final point that I want to make here is that Auburn needs to develop a player and get him drafted high from the state of Alabama. You hear what I'm saying? Jarquez Hunter is great. 4th round, he's from Mississippi, and that's fine. It's next door. We love Jarquez. He's one of my favorite all-time Auburn players. Thank you, Jarquez, for sticking it out. But it's been a long time, man. Since Auburn, it feels like it's been a long time because it should be something that's happening every NFL draft, to be honest with you. Keldric Faulk is from Highland Homes, small town Alabama. Auburn is one of the top 2 biggest universities in the state. For 100 years now, it has been looked at as a premier football destination collegiately in the state of Alabama. It should be somewhere where kids in Alabama can grow up and look at and say, I can go to Auburn, my in-state school. I can win football games, compete for championships, beat our rivals, and get drafted high into the league. Auburn should be able to make those dreams come true as a in-state powerhouse. Historically, these last 4 years have sucked, but historical powerhouse, top 15 college program of all time. You should be able to make those dreams come true for small-town Alabama kids. And it's not happening enough. And that's got to change. And I think Keldric Faulk has the ability to do that. And when you do that, it's obvious what the trickle-down effect is, right? Now Hugh Freeze can go into any room and say, look, he can go into whatever, insert small-town Alabama the next time and say, listen to me. You come here, 3 years, I'm going to get you to the pros. You're going to be a high draft pick. You're going to make some money when you're at Auburn. We're going to develop you on and off the field. And then you're going to go into the league, developed, already got a little bit of money in your pocket so you didn't have to struggle through your collegiate experience. And you can go achieve all your dreams. And it starts at Auburn. And that's going to that's going to be less and less with the portal and you having to get kids from here and get kids from there. But off the top of my head, Roger McCreary, when he went, 2nd round? So it's been a little while. Auburn needs to take small town. It ain't even got to be small town. It could be from Birmingham, Montgomery. But you hear what I'm saying. Most of Alabama is rural. You get these kids from Highland Homes, man. Send them to the league. Send them to the league. That's what Auburn's there for. And if Auburn can have a big year, win 9 games, beat a rival or 2, they ain't got to make the playoff, but be in the discussion. And then Keldric can have a monster season, all SEC type year. Be a high 1st-round pick, even if he's a 2nd-round pick. Auburn's got to break the 1st-round drought. But even if he's a 2nd-round pick, that's still a high pick. But you got to be able to take these kids from in-state and put them into the league for sure. So so that's just something I'm looking at this year and saying this, Keldric's that guy. So health is always part of the discussion. But as long as Keldric can stay healthy and He's a tough kid. I know he was limited this spring. It's pretty obvious Hugh was not concerned about this spring camp too much. So I wouldn't read too much into that. I think he'll be good to go week 1, and I think you're going to get the best out of Keldric Faulk. We got all summer to give official projections and all that, but just know I got Keldric having the kind of year where he's going to at least be a top 50 pick. I don't see him falling anywhere out of mid-second round next year. Because you see these guys that are kind of like, he's got that NFL body, He's got that NFL body, like Rivaldo Fairweather, who just got signed with the Cowboys. Felt like Rivaldo last year was coming into Auburn, and you felt like, okay, he had a decent first year at Auburn. Can he take that next step and get drafted? And he didn't. He signed with the Cowboys as a free agent. But he had the body, right? He got all the tools to make it you think he's an NFL tight end. However, the production wasn't there. The production blocking and a lot of drops. He just didn't have the year we thought he was going to have, which led to him going undrafted. Didn't think that was going to be the case for Rivaldo. I think he's going to be a first rounder the way Keldric has a potential to, but you see what I'm saying? Keldric has all the tools and the production's been there. So he's got one more year. Like I said, you can go back to look at these shorts from 2 years ago when we first signed him. We weren't even signed to the War Report at the time, but I was making some pretty bold claims. He's going to be here 3 years and he's going to be gone. And I think we're lining up for that. Let's real quick, maybe talk about some guys. You guys let me know in the comments down below or in the live chat here. What do you think about guys like Kayin Lee? Is he I know he will be eligible after this year. Is there anybody that maybe I'm missing? We got some guys that transferred in and that kind of stuff. So maybe there's some names that have slipped my mind. Eric Singleton has a big year in the way that KLS did last year. He could go. I think Kayin Lee is kind of outside of Keldric is the name I'm looking at. Connor Lew for sure. But my thing with Connor Lew is it's just the way that the NFL views center and the way they draft centers. So I think Connor Lew is going to be great. And I think Connor Lew is going to have a long NFL career ahead of him. I'm not sure, even if he's great this year, if he comes out. Because the NFL just, on that O-line, they value tackles, guards, and then center. Seems to be kind of the pecking order there. So we might be able to squeeze 4 years out of Connor Lew if we can make that NIL check good. But I think Connor, if he wants to, if Connor has a really solid all-SEC type season like I think he'll have, then I could very well see Connor coming out in the draft and getting drafted, 3rd, 4th round. And I think Lew's great. Y'all know how much I love Connor Lew. But again, it's just the position he plays. He might fall a little bit later in the draft. But I think Lew's also another guy that has a long NFL career ahead of him. And then you look down at some of those guys that were freshmen last year. Cam Coleman got a couple more years before he's eligible. Jordan Crawford, obviously, a couple more years before he's eligible. DeMarcus Riddick, a couple years before he's eligible. But those are guys that you also look at. Caleb Harris, and say, hey, these guys this probably translates to the league for sure. Malik Blockton, a couple more years. But definitely you start thinking about guys in the future that could play in the NFL for Auburn. And this, I call them draft woes because just frankly, Auburn having a guy drafted in the 3rd or the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th, and that being your 3 guys. Auburn's got to do better than that. We know that. I'm not knocking Hugh Freeze for that. Because you need 3 or 4 years to get your guys developed before they can start getting drafted up and all that kind of stuff. So, but those are some names I'm looking at. What kind of year does Kayin Lee have? If Kayin Lee has because I want to be careful here because he wasn't bad last year. He was solid. He was good, but I still feel like there's a little bit there's a little bit left there. There's still some untapped there. And I think Crime Dog can get to it. And I believe in Kayin Lee's ability wholeheartedly. He could be a guy, man, if he has a really good year. And even though Crawford won't be eligible, Crawford can help him out, right? Crawford can lock down his assignment and he can look good over there, and allow Kayin Lee to do his thing on the other side. So, and then defensive line getting pressure. Got to get some pressure on the quarterback and help our damn DBs out, man. We do. Like, our DBs have been great over these 4 straight losing seasons. Our secondary has not been the issue. But still, they haven't been able to reach their full potential as a room because the pressure on the quarterback's not there. So when I look at Kay and Lee, and can he really improve his draft stock next year? If the defense around him can play well, he could be one of those guys as well. Second, third round type pick. So there's a lot of guys on this roster. Auburn's been recruiting top 10 talent these last 2 or 3 years that can go on and have a future in the league. When I get to some of you guys' comments before you get out of here, if you're watching on replay, do me a favor, leave a comment. Let me know your projections. What do you think Keldric Faulk is going to do this year? And do you think that he can crack the first round and break that streak that Auburn is on now, going on 5 seasons of not having a guy in the first round? And it says, Dustin, my little area produces good players, huh? Let me know where you're at, Ant. Let me know where you're at, buddy. But I'm sure, if you're in the state of Alabama, I'm sure y'all do. Auburn Dad for Life says, Cam, Alvin, New Boy, they should all go. New Boy, okay. Talking about Cam Coleman, Alvin Henderson, I do believe, and Anquan Fagans should all go high. Yeah, you're talking about some guys that haven't played yet as far as New Boy and Alvin Henderson. But New Boy is definitely one of those guys. He's definitely, as far as coming in out of high school, you're looking at it in the same way that I talked about Keldric. I'm pretty much on that same train. Anquan should come in, play early, be really productive early, and in 3 years at the end of his junior season, he should be on and be a high draft pick in the NFL. Agree with you 100% on that one. Kyle says, I think that KF going to the NFL would be great for Auburn, but at this point in Auburn's rebirth, we need him to stay for 1 more year. Talking about Keldric Faulk. Yeah, I hear you, Kyle, for sure. But if Keldric has a big year, then I think he's gone. I think he's gone. And I think Keldric's going to have a big year. I think if Keldric has north of 10 sacks, then he's good in the run game. He locks down the edge in the run game. And he can get after the quarterback. Like, the NFL GMs are going to be salivating over this guy. So if he has this big type year, he gets some awards, all SEC, all that kind of stuff, I think he's gone. NFL pass rushers are at a premium. And that's why you see guys that are pass rushing specialists go high, right? Just the edge rushing types go high. If you get a guy like Keldric that can stop the run, can set the edge for your D-line, and he can get after the passer, that's when you're talking about guys getting drafted in the first, second, third round of the NFL draft. So Nina says, finally excited about football again. I hear you. So Nina. I'm always cautiously, the off season at this point, I'm always cautiously optimistic. Ant, let me go where you're at, brother. Let me know where you're at or what area you're at so I can know what you're referencing there. Angela says, what's up, Dustin? War Damn Eagle. Miss Angela Crotchfeld, I miss you. I hope everything is going well with you and your family. I appreciate you being in here and still supporting the show. It means a lot to me. Ant says, I watched 3 of AU players, and he was an indicator he will be okay. Who are you talking about, Ant? I know y'all are having a chat, little discussion there in the chat. And then Sonita says, I'm probably still pumped from basketball. Yeah, it was fun. That was fun. And then you're looking at a baseball team right now that's in the top 10. So you had a basketball team make the Final Four. You got a baseball team that's in the top 10. We're looking at the other major sport, right? We're looking at the one that brings home all the money. We're looking at the one with 80,000 plus seats. Where y'all at? We're waiting on y'all. So, but I am excited like you, so Nina. It should be fun. That game versus Baylor is going to be off the wall crazy. Friday night in Waco, and Auburn needs to win that game. So it's going to be fun, man. Look forward to the season. Look forward to discussing all kind of Auburn football topics with you guys. For our members, stay on the lookout within the next 48 hours. We'll have this member pod out for you guys. Thank you all for watching on such short notice. I know there wasn't any really indications that we were going live here. Thank you, guys. Please smash the thumbs up button. Sub to the channel. Like I said, do me a favor. Share this out on social media, and I will see you guys later on in the week. I love you. I appreciate all of you. War Damn Eagle, baby.